All right, welcome. Today we are going to become literary detectives. We're going to crack the code on poetry and turn it from this confusing puzzle into a really thrilling experience. And we're going to do it with the help of one groundbreaking critic who totally changed the way we read. So, let's get into it.
You've been there, right? I mean, we all have. You're staring at a poem, and it just feels like you're missing the secret password. You read it, you reread it, and you still walk away thinking, what was that even about? It's so frustrating. We're just so used to getting the quick summary, the headline. But poetry, it just doesn't work that way.
So, let's start right there, because the problem, it might not be with the poetry at all. Actually, it might be with how we've been taught to read it in the first place. Our instinct, especially when we're confused, is to just summarize everything. We're hunting for the thesis statement or the message that's buried somewhere in all that fancy language. It's like we treat the poem as a container, and our job is just to pull out the important stuff inside and throw the rest away.
But what if that whole process, trying to boil it down, trying to paraphrase it, is the very thing that's destroying the poem? What if there's a totally different way to look at this?
And that brings us to this incredible idea with an even better name, the heresy of paraphrase. This was the central argument of a movement from the 20th century called New Criticism. And honestly, it gives us our first major clue for cracking this case.
And here he is. Meet our lead detective, Cleanth. He was a literary critic who looked at this problem and basically said, you know what? We're all doing it wrong. He argued that we shouldn't be looking for a meaning in a poem, but seeing how the poem itself is the meaning.
So here's the core idea. Brooks called it a heresy, like a literary sin, to think that a simple summary could ever be the same as the poem itself. He said paraphrasing it flattens it out, it strips away all the tension, the surprise, the irony, basically everything that makes a poetry.
You know, think of it this way. A paraphrase, like "The city of London looks beautiful," is just a simple statement. It's factual. But the poem, "Smokeless air, all that mighty heart is lying still," that's an experience. It's an atmosphere. The paraphrase tells you what it is, but the poem makes you feel it. And that feeling is what gets lost in translation.
And this quote from Brooks just nails it. He said, summaries are just the scaffolding you put up while you're working. They're temporary, they're external, they are not the finished building. The poem is the building in all its complex, beautiful glory.
Okay, so if we're not supposed to paraphrase, what are we supposed to do? Well, Brooks gives us a new tool. Instead of hunting for the main idea, he tells us to hunt for something much more interesting, the paradox.
So what's a paradox? It's basically a contradiction that somehow makes sense. It's two opposite ideas being held together at the exact same time. And for Brooks, this isn't just some clever poetic trick. He said it's the very language of poetry. It's how poems create complex feelings that a simple statement never could.
Okay, let's go back to that poem about London. Brooks points out this list of words the poet uses to describe the morning. You know, beauteous, calm, free. They all seem to fit together, right? Until you hit that very last one.
I mean, think about that for a second. How can something be quiet and breathless at the same time? Quiet makes you think of peace, stillness, but breathless? That's excitement, awe, maybe even a little bit of shock. They seem like complete opposites. So what is going on here?
And this is the magic trick. The poem doesn't pick one feeling over the other. It fuses them. It creates this single, really complex feeling. A calm that is so deep, it's exciting, and an excitement so profound, it's peaceful. The poem creates an experience you just can't get any other way.
All right, let's really put this theory to the test now. We're going to take these new detective skills and apply them to a famously tricky poem by the 17th century poet John Donne.
So the poem is called The Canonization, which is the process of being made into a saint. And its central paradox is, frankly, outrageous. The speaker is arguing that his physical, romantic love for a woman is so pure they should actually be made saints because of it. He's mashing the sacred and the profane together.
And the entire poem pivots on this one line right here. The lovers, he says, die and rise the same. Now on the surface, that sounds like resurrection, a very holy idea. But Donne, he was a master of wordplay, and he's got a huge ace up his sleeve.
And here it is. This is the aha moment. This is the key that unlocks the whole thing. See, in Donne's time, the phrase to die was a very common, very well-known metaphor for sexual climax. And suddenly, that line has a shocking double meaning. Now, this isn't just a clever pun. It is the engine of the entire poem. With that one single word, die, Donne fuses spiritual rebirth with physical ecstasy. The paradox isn't something the poem is just talking about. It's baked into the very language itself.
And this gets us right to the heart of Brooks's most famous idea. He said the poem becomes a well-wrought urn, this beautiful, perfectly balanced, self-contained object. It doesn't just talk about fusing the sacred and the profane, it does it. The poem is the experience of holding those two opposites together.
So after all that, how do we actually apply this? Well, this whole approach gives us a new way of seeing, a new set of eyes for reading not just poetry, but maybe all art.
The big takeaway is to just stop thinking of a poem as a statement that you have to understand. Think of it more like a piece of music with its harmonies and its tensions, or think of it like a building with its own internal structure. Brooks even called it a drama. It's an action being performed, an experience for you to have.
So here's your new toolkit, your new game plan. First, just resist that urge to summarize. Second, put on your detective hat and start looking for the contradictions, the tensions, the paradoxes, and finally, just step back and appreciate how all those clashing parts work together to create one unified, amazing experience.
And really, all of this leaves us with a much bigger question, doesn't it? What do we want from art? Are we looking for a simple message we can just decode and tweet about? Or are we looking for a unique, irreplaceable experience that only that work of art can give us? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining us.